Mr. Speaker.
I call Andrew Bailey.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure to be standing here in support of the Taxation, Annual Rates, R&D and Remedial Matters Bill. This is an important bill as it's part of an ongoing reform of our taxation system aimed at making our tax system fairer and simpler. Let's be clear, New Zealand has a tax system that is the envy of the world. It's simple to understand, it's simple to implement, it's transparent, and it's not subject to a whole lot of exemptions and complexity. That's why we don't want our opposition in power, as they would want to introduce a whole range of additional taxes, and I spoke about this earlier. These would complicate our efficient tax system. The difference about this bill is it is about reducing tax on our families in need. It's about reducing tax on income for work and savings. It's about raising the effective tax rate on property development. Fourthly, it's about providing additional funding for IRD to target property speculators and tax avoiders. And fifthly, it's brought in stricter rules to ensure multinational companies contribute their fair tax in New Zealand. I want to concentrate on some of the elements of this bill. Firstly, quite simply, it's about ensuring those in need effectively pay less tax. I'm proud to be part of the government that through these changes now mean that after taking into account support payments, households earning less than $60,000 a year pay no net tax at all. To put this in context, for those with a family of 3 children earning $48,000 a year, after taking into account working for family support, effectively earn $73,000 per annum. That is fantastic, and when I look at some of the families living in my electorate, this is an important contribution to improving the lifestyle and standards for those families, and in particular the children. This is a government that has a heart and a soul and a desire to improve the well-being of all New Zealanders. Secondly, part of this bill is about creating the right environment to encourage companies to invest in R&D. This government has been very focused on growing the economy even faster than we've achieved in recent times, and I've already noted earlier tonight that we have achieved above normal growth rates the last year and projected over the next few years. Our objective is for the government to reach a stage where it's contributing 1% of GDP into R&D funding by 2018, and we're well on the way to meeting that target. Have got some wonderful examples in this country of where companies have benefited from government support to achieve very successful results. And picking up on the last member's talk, one of those examples is LanzaTech, a company with world-leading technology to process flue gases generated from steel-making emissions, or the emissions from steel-making, and are now involved in a major pilot plant in China. This was a very successful technology that has now been applied worldwide. Another example is Power by Proxy, a great Auckland-based company that had its genesis out of Auckland University and is now a leader in developing a range of exciting new technologies and intellectual property. Interestingly, they measure success in terms of the number of new patents they file, which is a great measure to adopt. And again, I note what the earlier speaker said. Here is a company actually focused explicitly on achieving patent and seeing how they can be deployed successfully into commercial applications. Another example is Serco, recently listed on the New Zealand Stock Exchange, and again have benefited from R&D funding to fast-track the development of a number of its products. And a fourth example is the very successful Zero, which also benefited from technology development grants to continue and help it assist in expanding its export growth. This bill goes further to support businesses who are prepared to commit to investing in new technology and IP for the benefit of all New Zealanders. Specifically, the bill amends the Income Tax Act 2007 to do two things. First of all, it allows tax loss-making R&D companies, normally they're start-up companies, to cash out their tax losses from R&D expenditure. The amount is initially capped at $500,000, but this government is increasing that by $300,000, so eventually the cap will be $2 million. Secondly, it's going to reduce the distortions that occur from what's called black hole in R&D expenditure. The proposed amendments seek to allow that expenditure either to be capitalised over an equivalent depreciation period, or if the intangible asset is written off, to be written off at that point in time. I'd like to just note that R&D expenditure sometimes results in success and sometimes not. That is part of the normal rules of R&D. These rules seek to balance those interests to ensure our entrepreneurs continue to want to invest in New Zealand in developing new products and services. Now, I hear some opposition members claiming this is not fair, this is not appropriate. The reality is that these shareholders assume substantial risk and provide significant cash to finance these R&D activities, and it's only appropriate that we do what we can as a government to support such activities. In fact, for those who've read the book Get Off the Grass by Professor Paul Callaghan and Sean Hendy, they were unequivocal in recommending that the government continue to foster investment in R&D. There is a symbiotic relationship between the private sector and the public sector when it comes to R&D. We as a government have an overwhelming need to continue to invest in the public good R&D, because out of that comes many ideas that have commercial application. As a country, we must continue to invest in adding value to our important industries, as well as creating new industries, as this is how we're going to create new jobs, higher paying jobs that all New Zealanders desire and deserve. The third thing I just want to turn my mind to is the child support reforms. This government is focused on reducing the size and growth of child support debt. Along with the changes in this bill, the reforms should ensure greater compliance and a reduction in the $3.2 billion of outstanding child support debt. The bill clarifies some of the debt write-off provisions. It inserts a wider definition around adjusted net income to take into account income from trusts and companies. It also allows for ability to offset current payments against past debts, and it introduces a discretion to recognise other payments, such as the payment of school fees, as qualifying child support payments. In essence, this is about looking after the interests of the child and making sure that both partners pay their fair share towards the upbringing of their children. This is essentially an issue of equity. Changes in the controlled foreign companies and foreign investment funds are also very important, as they really set about reducing some of the deductions available to people calculating income from CFC where they involve prepayments. This is consistent with the current treatment for New Zealand resident companies. And the bill also makes some changes around a grouping of CFC rules. Mr. Speaker, these changes are good business, they protect children, they encourage investment in R&D, and they tighten up the rules relating to CFCs. I commend this bill to the House.
The next